Hey guys, it's Dean with the Two Party Podcast. Um, we are going to go ahead and do we're still banned on Facebook. We have a guest interview this morning. I might get that one uploaded. Very interesting guy. He's got some topics to speak on. So I might get that one up today. But in the meantime, I wanted to again. I always, for you guys following our episodes, I try to do these news breakdowns. I might start doing them daily, like I've been trying to do, and hit or miss. But I start doing them daily. I'm getting some requests that people enjoy the live. So once we get our Facebook back up, we have a little bit of a larger audience over on that side. We'll start doing them there. We may actually just kind of cross-platform. We might just go ahead and do lives on Instagram, YouTube, wherever we can get live. So we may do that. But anyhow, today, 9/25/2020, I want to do my news breakdown. There's a few topics that are on my mind. But most importantly, I just kind of want to run through the news real quick. One of the stories that I'm going to talk about involves somebody who was killed here in Tulsa, a friend of mine, somebody I cared about. We weren't real close friends. We became friends several years ago when he was running for Bixby City Council, I believe Ward 5. We became friends then, became talking more, started discussing things on business lines and on background, different things we wanted to kind of engage each other in and network with. But I still consider him a friend of mine. So we're going to discuss that. That's kind of a new headline locally for us here in Tulsa. So I'm just going to go ahead and I think I'm going to start over here on this side with Justice Ginsburg. So they have relocated her. She sat on the steps of the Supreme Court there for a few days for everybody to kind of give their. And I apologize if you can hear the crazy noise outside. Apparently they decided today's the day to chip some trees up and cut some trees at a lot next door. So I apologize if that's coming over my voice or you can hear in the background that grinding noise. I can't control that. I think they have quite a bit of debris to do. So I just figured this would be a good time to try to break the news down since most people don't even care about the news anyhow, right? So anyhow, Justice Ginsburg moved from the Supreme Court steps where people were given time to mourn, given time to go visit, say their goodbyes, pray over her, whatever it may be. They have now moved her to the Capitol. So lawmakers held a formal ceremony in the statutory hall. The Bidens, Kamala Harris, of course, they've got to be thrown in there, paid their respects, but GOP leaders Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy did not attend. Guys, just keep up with the media here, man. The propaganda. So I'm reading this off of literally NBCnews.com. Okay, so if you watch or listen or get your media from NBCnews.com and you just heard me read that headline, if there could be any more bias, I don't know how you could be. I don't know how. I don't even know. I can understand further in the meat of the story, putting down like who attended and who didn't attend or whatever. But I don't know why the headline has to mention Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy not attending and GOP leaders, but make a strong headline mention about Biden's and Kamala Harris attending. Guys, if you guys are really following the media here and really paying attention, the media is so biased, it's ridiculous. So that being said, I found that funny that we're just reading this, and I'm reading this live with you guys together. I have not read this article. But what caught my attention was the fact that she is, Justice Ginsburg now is the first woman to ever lie in the state capitol. So in other words, she's the first person before a funeral ceremony to ever be brought in and left for a ceremony to be done in the Capitol. I find that interesting in all of the years, decades and decades of our history of leaders that have died and passed away. That we're in the year 2020 and she's the first female that's ever been allowed that respect, which not only just shows the honor of respect for her being who she was, and a lot of people will disagree with me on that. I see a lot of people from the right and GOP and just a lot of people kind of giving some bad press to her. That lady, no matter how you feel about certain topics in politics she had and her viewpoints, she was a great woman and a lady. as far as what she supported and what she believed in, and she was very passionate about it. And she lived her life and her career fighting against inequality for women and other things like that. And so you got to give props where it's due. But another, just in her death, she makes another achievement and becomes the first woman to lie in the state capitol in the year 2020, which I find kind of odd. So anyhow, on that note, I'm going to move on. So Kentucky's only black female legislator arrested on felony rioting charges at Breonna Taylor's protest. First off, I've said this before. Anytime you have to label black, white, colors to headlines, or anytime you, even just in person, speaking as a person, if you have to label people black, white, yellow, brown, whatever it may be, and then, this has to be a headline in the middle of, we already know that Breonna Taylor, and we already know the inflated turmoil and things going on from George Floyd and all the racial things that have become the media topic, weapon, and political weapon, using people and their background, ethnicity and culture for political votes is really what this all boils down to. And on the flip side of it, the people that are fighting for equal justice for culture, color, and race, I'm with you. But this media spin that they put on everything isn't necessary. And if I were a person of color, I would be kind of personally offended. And as a person of a color, I am kind of offended that people put these headlines out. It doesn't matter what color you are; you're a human being. This simply could have just been Kentucky's only. It could have been Kentucky's female legislator arrested. It could have been anything other than what they decided to put there. But anyhow, as the only black female representative in Kentucky Capitol, which I find odd in the year 2020. State Representative Attica Scott took action after the death of Breonna Taylor, who was fatally shot by police raiding her home in March. In August, Scott proposed Breonna's law, a bill that would end no-knock warrants statewide. And when a grand jury decided not to indict the officers in Taylor's death, Scott joined hundreds of protesters in the streets of Louisville. On Thursday night, Louisville officers arrested Scott along with a handful of other protesters near First Unitarian Church and Louisville Free Public Library. I watched this live. It was on last night. I think I caught it on Breitbart News, which, again, whatever media source you follow, I like finding the live feeds because even though I'm not right there, I don't have to hear a journalistic spin or a political spin on it. You can literally physically watch a live video on these media sites and kind of gather your own on, who's being the more aggressive person in these protests and stuff. So that's kind of why I was watching it, to see what the police were reacting to. And I'll make mention of that in a second. So then it says in the Free Public Library area, which had allegedly been set on fire, according to police report reviewed by Wave. I don't know what Wave is. It must be some kind of media thing. The state representative received a federal felony charge of first-degree rioting and 2 misdemeanors for failure to disperse an unlawful assembly. The paper reported that Scott was released. Was released from jail Friday. So, going back to what I was saying, I was watching this live, and the side note I wanted to put in there, and I've said this before, I always support law enforcement. 100%. Now, I watched some of this. A few things I found funny. One of the first things I found funny is one of the protesters was yelling, and I did find this kind of funny. One of the protesters is yelling at the police from the top. There's like a tiered level up to the church, and one of the protesters, he's up there and he's just yelling and screaming from the top of this raised section in front of the church entrance or the corner. I don't know if that was the entrance. I've never been to that church. So needless to say, he's yelling, and he's just like, we're not going anywhere. You guys need to, what did he say? He said, put down your guns. That's what it was. He was yelling, put down your guns, put down your guns. And one of the protesters, and you could hear the full audio in the live. So one of the protesters next to him says, put on your mask, put on your mask. And then he's like, you're spitting on all of us. So he's yelling at the guy who's yelling at the police in the middle of their same protest, and they're arguing amongst themselves that this guy needs to put his mask on while he's yelling because he's spitting all over everybody. I found that funny, and I know it's taken light. And if you know me, you know I love sarcasm. I love comedy. I'm kind of a jackass myself. But I out of all of it, and I know people are just going to pick me apart on that, but out of all of it, I just found it to be absolutely hilarious that this guy is being yelled at for spitting on everybody with his mask off, while he's yelling at the police to drop their weapons. So needless to say, this lady, this legislator, was arrested for felony charges. So my take on just the story, again, that's what we do, the news breakdown. So my take on and my perspective on it is, first off, we need leaders to lead. Second off, leading a protest where the day before 2 police officers were shot, multiple shots were fired. There was obvious unrest and violence the night before. I think this leader is not leading by example. And if leading by example means that the night before, people you support amongst your city, your legislator for your city, a lawmaker for your city, these people that you work with hand in hand, police officers, city leaders, state leaders, your city and community, the people that you're a legislator, you were voted in by constituents of this city. If you're going out the next day after 2 police officers were shot in violence, and your way of leading by example is to show your support for the people that shot at the police, no matter what your opinion of the police in this instance is, if you're in support of the lawmaker doing that, I can't. I feel like all our state leaders, all our legislators, all our Congress, Senate, the executive branch as well, judges, juries, prosecutors, they have to have an unbiased stance. And when you step up as a state or city leader, that you said you took an oath to protect and write laws to protect these citizens and help these citizens. You took an oath to do that in your office, and you step up to something that the night before created violence. 2 officers got shot. I feel like you don't deserve to be in the position you're in, because you openly, verbally have taken a stance and a side. So you are no longer unbiased. You have immediately made yourself biased to a party line of protester or law enforcement and institution, basically, for lack of a better term. A lot of people disagree with that. That is my perspective, and that is my opinion. And I feel that what's probably going to happen here is these felony charges will probably be dropped down to misdemeanors. They will say she was, just exercising her freedom of speech, which she was. And I have nothing against that. But I feel that is no place for a state leader. Now, when you hear about and you see these state leaders stepping up and doing these protests with people and joining in on these protests, I get the support, and I know it's political. I know personally it's political. Okay, these people aren't just jumping in a crowd. They may feel passionate about the same vision or the same movement, but they're not jumping in the crowd for anything more than to further their political career deep down. And you guys are being used by believing that this person is going to change your life or make the movement all the better. So I honestly hope that this is a precedent set. I hope the felony charges stick. I hope she gets taken or removed from her seat in office. And I hope they put somebody better in that seat that will legislate unbiasedly for the city of Louisville and Kentucky, the state. And I hope that they do so swiftly, maybe a special election, just to literally remove the bias that we have in our government. The party line politics that we're seeing day in and day out, Republican, Democrat, the support, the protests of whatever the protest may be, versus law and order and uphold the leadership and example you set as a leader. People don't get up to these positions by being idiots. Okay, some of them maybe do, but it's very important to remember that you're a leader when you reach this point, and your actions dictate so much If you're wanting to be the leader of a black movement or a protest against Breonna and this Breonna's Law proposal that she proposed, good, do that. But when you put a proposal forward and then you step out in the streets with the protesters that are doing violence against police, while police, again, I don't know the whole story, but from what I understand, and I said this yesterday, the first shots that were fired were concussion grenades over a crowd, and then that's when the shooting started. I feel like you're not being a good leader. You're being biased to the party that you're agreeing with, or the proposal you put forward, Breonna's Law that you put forward. Now you're siding with. There is no other way around your law other than your side of it, and unfortunately, she probably had support. I don't know if this bill says something that this Breonna's Law bill would end no-knock warrants statewide. I think her actions alone probably deflated this bill ever getting passed due to her actions. So what she actually did was a disservice to Breonna's family and to any further help this law passing could have done for no-knock. So that being said, that's my perspective. You guys love it or hate it, okay? I'm trying to keep track of the time, guys. Sorry. And then Breonna Taylor's family demands Kentucky AG releases grand jury transcripts. So the Attorney General has stepped out in press conference yesterday, or day before, I'm sorry, and made comments that this wasn't decided by the city, this wasn't decided by the police force, this was decided by the Attorney General, this was decided by the grand jury. And so people should not be upset at anyone or blame anyone outside of the grand jury. Now, the twist on this is that Breonna Taylor's family and their attorney and a representative has stepped forward and said, we're declaring and demanding that the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, release the transcripts of the grand jury proceedings that led to the indictment of only one of the 3 officers involved in her death. Attorney Ben Crump made an announcement while speaking that Taylor's mother and family in their first press conference, and he said Tamika Palmer and her family are as heartbroken, devastated, outraged, confused, bewildered. I listened to all of this. At the end of the day, I was more interested in what the later lady that stepped up right after him and speaking, because he kind of just kept speaking and speaking and speaking, and kind of just adding some fuel to the fire, kind of riling everybody in the crowd up and trying to get that energy and that and angst going is what I felt. He was just kind of flaming things. The lady that stepped up next was very knowledgeable. I wouldn't say she's very knowledgeable. Okay, I don't want to retract that. She was knowledgeable in the fact that what she was asking for is they've asked for the transcripts to be released. What they're asking and what she presented that made complete civil sense to me was that what she was asking for is that they provide the transcripts and recordings. And the reason they want the transcripts and recordings is not solely to say that the grand jury didn't do their job. It's that they want to make sure that the Attorney General and the prosecuting office actually presented evidence and or presented on behalf of Breonna Taylor when making the decision that they made. And if you want justice to work and to be equal, I agree with that lady's statement. I agree that the transcript should be transparent and people should get to see it. If her family has the heart to hear and walk themselves through these transcripts and read through them, if they can do that, great. If it's going to help them or get them closure, they really feel that. But most importantly, I think this is more of a legal thing. I agree that what if she wasn't, and there's a lot of circumstances I've heard that her ex-boyfriend had a body in the trunk of her car. I've heard that there was some kind of cover-up situation with that. I've heard that she continued to be surveilled, delivering drugs to a trap house. I've heard every side and angle of this, that while she may have been innocent, she was enabling the criminal behavior and drug dealing of the boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. That being said, I feel like I pray that when this all comes out, it's not politicized, it's not a media smear or a legal attorney tactic. I pray that the transcripts come out and the recordings come out and people can hear the truth. And I'm hoping that the truth really is that the Attorney General advocated for Breonna Taylor in this case, and that they didn't remove or leave out anything that could have possibly brought justice to maybe something that happened that shouldn't have. As far as the incident itself, from what I've gathered and what facts I've read about it, the police did announce themselves, and many neighbors were witnesses to that. They immediately went in as soon as they breached. They were being shot at by the boyfriend. In that circumstance, things get crazy in small confined areas really quickly when gunfire is going off, and in the midst of this gun battle, she was shot. I think they said, I'm not even going to get too deep into it. I believe they said that he was hiding when he was shooting, like from under the bed or something. I'm not sure. But that being said, it's a horrific situation, and I really do hope that the AG presented the facts, presented a case that not only supported what he was there to do, but it supported Breonna Taylor's defense. And that's what I'm kind of hoping. And we'll find out. That's the thing, is at the end of the day, we'll find out. A vehicle plows through Breonna Taylor protests in Hollywood, hitting at least one person. Now, I hate having to do this, but I'm going to do it, okay? Now, these protests, since this announcement, instead of it just being focused on Louisville, Kentucky, people showing support throughout the nation, maybe even throughout the world, are protesting in their own cities, okay? So while I really am really not trying to watch what I say, but I'm really trying to be as nice about this as possible. So if you're protesting, then your protest or your voice or your movement, and I've said this before, comes to violence or impedes and or hurts, injures, stops, obstructs another person's movement in the world or in your area of your protest, your movement and your voice and everything becomes worthless if you're basically resorting to violence. And if you're obstructing the movement of somebody driving or somebody heading home or somebody doing whatever they're doing, if you want to have your protest, have your freaking protest. But if you're stopping someone else's life who did not choose to be part of your protest and did not choose to turn down a wrong street and end up in the middle of a protest, and if your protest is in the middle of the road, or protesters are blocking the roads to get attention for their movement, which then makes it worthless, people get scared. People want to defend their lives. People are going to react in a way that is fight or flight. And most of the people that we're hearing about getting ran over are put in a position where it's fight or flight. They're either their windows are being broken out, their properties being damaged, first off, cars being kicked, windows being broken, door handles being pulled, they're potentially being dragged out of their car, or that's the attempt. I don't condone running people over. I don't condone injuring, maiming, or hurting another person, human being, in any way, shape, or form at all. And I would not ever condone that. So before I make this statement, if you're in the middle of the road, know that I don't condone running people over. But if your protest and your people are in the middle of the road, a literal highway or road that people travel on by car, and you know you're not supposed to, in any normal act of, normal function of life throughout history, you're not supposed to stand in roads. There's sidewalks, there's laws that give you jaywalking tickets for walking across the road the wrong way. The roads are meant for vehicles and cars and movement. Sidewalks and the side of the road or the easements is where you should be doing your protest, and or in a park, in front of the courthouse steps, in front of, if you have a large number of people to where you can't, you're like, well, we didn't all fit on the sidewalk. Well, then you need to take your protest somewhere else, or you need to spread your protest out around a certain area. So that being said, I'm not taking away from freedom of speech, freedom to protest and voice your opinion. But when you're blocking a highway and somebody's life is obstructed, who has, for all you know, this person driving through could have had a medical emergency. I've heard that before. People have said, have tried to disavow, like, well, who cares? If that person's having a medical emergency, they're trying to get someone to the hospital. If someone at their house is injured or dying or having a medical emergency and they're trying to just rush home, or if they're just getting, it's plain and simple, if they're just trying to get home to their kids, they've had a long day at work and they're just trying to get home to their kids. And all of a sudden they find themselves in the midst of take a wrong turn, whatever, and you end up in the midst of a protest and a million, people you don't know, not a million, but you get what I'm saying. They run up and surround your car, and they're in your face. They're holding signs of their movement. They're yelling, Black Lives Matter, Breonna Taylor, say it, blah 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 blah, in your face. You got your windows up, you got your doors locked. Maybe your kids are in the back. I don't know. What are you gonna do? And it's not a peaceful protest when you're obstructing the movement of another human being. It's not a peaceful protest when you're in the road blocking the movement of vehicles. It is not a peaceful protest when what you're doing is in essence threatening and assaulting and or putting someone in fear of their life. It's no longer peaceful. You've crossed the line. It no longer became a lawful protest when people went in the road, if that state or city has laws in place that you're not allowed to gather in the road. You already broke the law. So as much as everybody wants to hate me for having that perspective, I'm going to read this real quick. A truck drove through a group of protesters in Hollywood on Thursday night, striking at least one person as it sped away from the crowd. Demonstrators had gathered at 7 p.m. Hollywood Forever Cemetery before marching through the streets of Hollywood. Kind of creepy. I mean, Halloween's coming up, but you're gathering in the cemetery. They were decrying the announcement on Wednesday of the Louisville, Kentucky police officers involved in the death of Breonna Taylor, who was shot to death in a bungled raid. I keep hearing that bungled raid. I want to know how it was bungled. It sounds like it was a raid, but anyhow, had been charged with a crime. The one indicted officer, Brett Hankinson, was charged not in connection with Taylor's death, but for allegedly firing blindly into her apartment. That I get, okay? If you don't know what you're shooting at, you don't just shoot in an apartment. If you're being shot at, take cover. The charging decision anticipated for months, blah, 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 blah. On Thursday, a group of Hollywood was walking down Sunset Boulevard. Video posts on Twitter and YouTube shows a dark-colored pickup accelerated among the protesters, striking one and hurtling the other backwards. The truck sped down Sunset Boulevard, nearly hitting other people who leaped out of the way, the footage shows. So, again, just to reiterate, I do not condone people running people over. I do not condone people just driving through protesting mobs, okay? However, if you're out there protesting and you want your point to be taken, follow the laws. If you're not a person that lives your life standing in the middle of a road, most people don't, just don't do it. If you're crossing the road and a car just hits you, I mean, that's their bad. I mean, they hit you crossing the road legally. If you're a mob of people surrounding the vehicle, threatening a person in a car, kicking the car, damaging the car, throwing stuff at the windows, forcing them to make a statement, you're threatening. You're violating the law, whether you touched them or not. I know the laws, every state's different, and every definition of the law, assault is different. Assault and battery can be taken different ways in different states according to the laws in those states as well. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're threatening my life, if it's me and I'm driving and I take a turn and I end up in the middle of a protest in front of me of several hundred people, and I just decide, well, this is the route I gotta go, I can't do a U-turn, and I start idling up and the people don't disperse and kind of let me go through, or they start damaging my property. They're kicking my car, kicking my windows, yelling and screaming at me, trying to pull my door handles and get me out of the car. Guess what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to risk my safety and my life to be one of these people or victims that you see online that get pulled out of their car and beat to death, or beat to a coma or injury. I'm not going to be that person. So I am going to fight or flight, and I am going to I'm going to take accountability for the situation that I'm in and try to save my life. And if it means that I have to drive through a crowd of people, injuring possibly any of them, preventing myself from being injured until I can get my car to a safe place where I can then call authorities to come have their investigation and talk to me why I did it. I will take accountability for that. If they choose that the protesters are in the right and I was in the wrong, they can take me to jail and arrest me for driving my car through a crowd. What would probably be the charge would be attempted vehicular homicide, which would be probably in most states. However, I would get some of the best legal team to fight that charge if that was the charge, because it's not that I'm attempting to murder someone. I'm fleeing in fear of my life. So I think we're going to see some cool, crazy legal stuff go on with all these protest drivers running people over. So don't run people over unless your life is threatened. And I'm not condoning you to do it, and I'm not saying to go do it because your life is threatened. Don't go if you know there's protests going on in your city in a hot area. Just stay away from it. Find another route home. It's not worth it. If you're confronted with these people, do what you have to do. Make a decision, but be accountable. When you get through this situation, don't try to run and hide. Get through the situation, find you a safe place to park that car, get out of that car, call the authorities on yourself immediately, let them know you're the car that drove through and this is why you were in fear of your life. That's my advice. But at the end of the day, again, hear me out. Do not drive through a crowd of people. Do not run people over. It's not worth it. It's just not. Unfortunately, nobody in the protest is going to care. They actually want this to occur. So I'm gonna touch on something I mentioned earlier. This is somebody who is a friend of mine. He ran for city council here in Bixby, near my house, outside of Tulsa. His name is Jeremy Shadrick. This man owns several businesses. Great community leader. He ran for city council. He did not win. In the midst of that, he still continued to push forward with some investments and things he was doing in the community. He also was set up. Me and him were talking about this one day where I was looking at the prints and the pictures. He had set up a thing for like a prison, kind of a prison, transitional prison program type of thing, for lack of a better term, which basically would be like if you were sentenced to prison, it was a program where it was like an alternative to prison. So you would go to this program and you would be housed there, and you would get some educational stuff, counseling. You would potentially seek a job, but it would keep you from actually having to go to prison. So he was working on building this place and working with the state to kind of help with some of the criminal stuff going on. He's a medical marijuana grower, medical marijuana dispensary owner, he appreciated and loved art. This guy had he was a big man, and he had the biggest heart, and he would help anyone if you asked. He'd help people that didn't even ask. And the other thing I loved about Jeremy was he loved art in a way that I don't think most people can. He had an eye for art, but he had a unique vision for that he could see the world and see things as art. And that's why when me and him would talk, when we would have time to talk, and the few times we did, I loved his demeanor. I just loved everything about the way he was. He genuinely would, the last time I actually physically saw him, I was in his dispensary discussing some products he had and discussing some business stuff that we were having, potentially going to be having. We were texting back and forth on stuff, previous to me even finding out that he got ran over and killed. And but what got me was that last visit he was the same man that he had been since the day I met him a couple years previous. And it wasn't about how are you doing. He genuinely was like, how are things with you? How's your family been? What's been going on with you? And it wasn't just a typical, you see somebody like, hey man, how are you doing? He genuinely wanted to know and cared what Dean was doing, what I was doing. And I reciprocated with, what are you doing? And he kind of filled me in and told me about, things that were going on business and family wise. And they just had a new kid. And anyhow, that's what I want to get off before I read this. So in a nutshell, what this is the headline is Saudi Arabia attempts to post a bond for a Tulsa Uber driver accused of murdering a passenger. The passenger was Jeremy. A Tulsa County judge on Wednesday reinstated a $500,000 bond for a man accused of first-degree murder on allegations that he ran over his Uber passenger during an altercation in June. But a prosecutor said Thursday that Omar Emron Ba'abed, I guess is his name. I'm not good at those. Defense indicated that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of which Ba'abed is a dual citizen of the United States, is trying to provide the funds for his release. As a result, the district attorney's office filed a motion Thursday seeking revocation. So what I don't have the full details and I don't have the report. Here's what I have. I have, as a friend of his, and not being biased, I have what I was told directly by his best friend and family. I have what I've looked at and filtered through in some of the information that's been told to the media and what they've reported. And so I was not there. Nobody was there. They've been checking video camera. They've been checking a lot of things. Now, what they're saying happened was that there was an altercation between Jeremy called for an Uber. It was late in the evening or morning, and he called for an Uber to take him home or whatnot. And Uber picked him up. Apparently, there was some kind of altercation in the Uber. They're saying something about, or his attorneys are saying something about, there was a physical, like he physically put his hands on him. There was a physical altercation, and he like took the guy's phone. As long as I've known Jeremy, he is a big man. He played football. This is a big man. He could probably wrap his hand around most people's heads, use it for basketball. Very big man. But the thing about him that I knew most is that he was a teddy bear. He was the kindest guy. Yeah, not a mean bone. Now that's not to say he didn't get mad. I've seen him mad. I've seen him kind of get upset over certain things, and I've even heard him say, that guy needs an ass whooping or something, But at the end of the day, he wasn't that guy. Okay, he was the guy that would be civil and walk away for the most part. Obviously he would do what he would do to protect his family. He loved his family and his friends to the death. But so what I've heard on this is that this Uber driver, there was an altercation. Jeremy got out and he basically was like, and there was witnesses, there was people that saw what kind of transpired, but there wasn't like, nobody got it on film. There was no business cameras. So he got out of the car and he's like, F you, and I'm gone. And he got out of the car to walk away. And the guy put it in reverse and ran over him, hit him. And due to the injuries Jeremy sustained internally, internal bleeding and whatnot, and the impact itself hit him, the car, the way it hit him and stuff, he ended up later on dying and passing. It hit me hard. Like I said, we were working on some talks on some things we were trying to work to kind of partner together with, and it hurts me. It's sad to know even now that this is going on, and that his family has to go through this. He leaves behind his daughter, who me and my son have gone and sat and ate at one of the fish houses up here. While he was campaigning, we went and had lunch with him and stuff. Just an amazing man. Leaves behind a daughter, his new son, and his wife, Leanne, and his mom, Diane, and there's just family and friends forever. That the list goes on. He was loved by so many people, and so I'm hearing this story, and I'll be honest, I feel I would agree. There's a toss up back and forth on this article in Tulsa World. That this guy shouldn't get bond. He's a flight risk. I would agree that there's been other cases that you can confirm that people have bailed out and they've fled back to their country. And apparently they've said that they've revoked his passport, and it's very rare that he flees, and he has no reason to flee because he didn't do anything wrong. Blah 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 blah. A man died. Period. The man did something wrong because if you're an Uber driver or anybody, we just went over this. You don't run someone over. If this guy, let's just say for the sake of argument, Jeremy got in a physical altercation with the guy, said, let me escalating this into murdering Jeremy. So that being said, I'm gonna let go of that one. I'm gonna try to wrap up, get through these pretty quick now because I do have to. I gotta get out of here. So feature film Alejandro wraps up filming in Tulsa. So there's a lot of people haven't. Tulsa, Broken Arrow, in general, Oklahoma has become a real hot spot for Hollywood. I'm sorry, I'm trying to adjust this camera. I don't know why it's going all foggy on me. It's a real hot spot for Hollywood and movie theaters. Movies and basically music, arts, and culture in general. There's been a lot of big bands that come here. Hanson Brothers come and go and from here all the time. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So anyhow, this movie Alejandro, they're just finishing up this project here. So keep your eyes open. Take a look at the storyline. It's about let's see, the storyline centers around a character, Alejandro, who is about to be sentenced for a crime he did not commit. Then he meets a stranger named Lucas who steps in to represent him. And that's it. So look it up, do your research on it. It's kind of cool. An interesting story. I kind of watched some of the pre-previews, and it really does have a pretty cool narrative, and it sounds like it's going to be a really cool hit. And so I just wanted to bring that. It's local news here to Tulsa for those of you that are listening from here. That's what's going on. Kim Jong-un, we talked about this yesterday, I believe. Yes, I believe. There was a guy from South Korea that was murdered, shot, murdered, and burned, and they made him disappear. And Kim Jong-un issues a rare apology to South Korea over the death of the official. Kim Jong-un asked to convey the message that he was very sorry. Now, I said this yesterday. There's reports that he was really sick a while back. There was reports that he died and his sister was going to take over. Just recently, there was a secondary push of this narrative that he's dead. And I find it interesting that these announcements are always coming out, but there's really we're not seeing him. So I'm wondering who's running North Korea at this point. So anyhow, this guy, they shot and killed him and disposed of his body. Shot and burned the body of the South Korea official who had disappeared from the government, from a government vote earlier in the week. So that being said, he's apologizing. That's pretty big because North Korea doesn't apologize for anything. China's oppression of Muslims is supposed to stop. Okay. I can't get that one to show, but basically at the end of the day, apparently we're getting China's oppression of Muslims reaches into Pakistan is what this article is about. It's in the LA Times. It's not letting me pull up. I had it pulled up, and then they're giving me one of those little block screens that I need to subscribe and be a member. I guess I need to start using my press credentials a little more to get access to some of these. Police raid in Vietnam. This one, okay. I'm bringing this one up because I laughed about it when I saw it, but be safe out there, people. Be careful. Maybe read your condom packages. Police raid in Vietnam finds that more than 300,000 used condoms being repackaged for sale. Disgusting. And gross. And yeah, so if you want to look at that article, that's on CBS News. Vietnam condom recycling police raid factory used resale. So nasty. Ralph Northam, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam tests positive for COVID. This is the governor. He was in the news a while back for being just a real opposing force to Trump and siding with some lefty politics on abortion and some other issues. So he caught some heat on some stuff. This one is another one. Federal judge bars Trump administration from ending the census. Now, this has been going back and forth, the whole census issue, for a while. The Trump attorneys, the White House attorneys, are just trying to get this thing postponed or get it to end. And everyone else is saying, well, we got to wait till the very last person. And what they're fighting over is they're in court kind of fighting over like people wanting people that are not citizens of the nation to be able to fill out the census and be counted on the census, which would give us a population count of how many people are in the nation, but doesn't really give you like the information data that they're wanting for actual citizens. And that's where part of the argument is, and then part of it's just political. 4 county commissioners in Texas arrested for alleged voter harvesting and scheme. So what happened here was there was this is 2018 Democratic primary election. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced that authorities arrested 4 Gregg County commissioners in Long, Texas, in charges connection with organized vote harvesting. So what had happened was, to increase the pool of ballots, they needed to swing the race. Commissioner Shannon Brown's favor. Brown, along with Marlena Johnson, Charlie Burns, and Dwayne Ward, targeted young, able-bodied voters to cast ballots by mail by fraudulently claiming the voters were disabled. So here's how that works, and I'm going to break it down for you. This might just get tossed out, but well, it probably shouldn't get tossed out, but it might. What you do initially, before all this big election crap and political weaponizing of our election board came about with absentee ballots. So if you wanted an absentee ballot, you had to have a reason why you couldn't show up at the poll. You basically had to be disabled or a medical condition or some other acceptable reason why you needed an absentee ballot. That's how it's been in most states and has been for years. What these people did is they basically, they're claiming this is fraud because they had people asking for ballots and claiming they were disabled, but yet could not prove, and most of them were proven not to be disabled. That's what that story is about. And the other one, there's another South Texas mayor is arrested on election fraud. So there's another one, again, election fraud. I've said it before, I'm an inspector with the election board. I do these polls. I encourage everyone to go do the polls, learn how it works, be a part of it, see how the system works. But most importantly, I enjoy doing it because I can see from the background and behind the curtain where fraud could occur and where fraud can't occur. And our elections are super secure. There is a protocol, and like I got to sign off for the clerk's got to sign off for me. The judge got to sign off on all two of us, and it just, there's just a chain of command and protocols that are put in place that makes elections very safe. The only way that you're going to tamper with or mess with an election or ballots or anything like that is if you intentionally are breaking the law to do so. In other words, you're breaking seals, that we seal everything up. You'd have to break seals. You'd have to do so in the presence, because it's all done in the presence of a witness, of the judge and the other people. So in order to do something like that, you literally have to do it in front of people. So those people have to be on board. So when you sign off on it, those people are just co-conspirators to it. So election fraud on that front is not very likely. What they're talking about is a whole different ballgame. Folks, I do have to get off here. I've got a guest coming up. I got to record a live interview. That is today's 9/25/2020 breakdown. Hope you enjoyed it. Give me some feedback. We're wanting people to subscribe. We're wanting people to go to the website, number 2 partypodcast.com. If you have someone you want to be a guest, have them go to the 2partypodcast.com website, go to the contact page, or go to 2partypodcast@gmail.com and email me. Just email me that they want to be a guest. Tell them to give me their info. Phone number is what I need. Obviously I'll get their email, but just what they want to go on the show and talk about. And I will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours or them, and we will get you booked and we'll have you set. So have a great day.